What's up everyone? Welcome back to Simply a Breeze. Today we are going to be in the kitchen and we're going to be making two meals. The first meal is going to be lasagna. We're going to make it for dinner tonight. I'm going to get it prepped a little bit ahead of time. We're going to stick it in the fridge, and then when we're ready for dinner, I can pull it out and pop it in the oven and we'll call it good. I may also make enough so that way I can put it into a little bit of smaller portions and we can put it in the freezer. So we've got some freezer meals in the event I don't feel like cooking. We've got something already made and ready to go. The second meal that we are going to be making today is grilled chicken Alfredo. And this grilled chicken Alfredo is going to be a meal that we are going to freeze dry and take with us to a camping trip in Minnesota. And so if these two meals seem like something that you are interested in, you've always wanted to give it a try, don't be intimidated, and let's dive right in. Okay, so the tomato sauce that we used in the spaghetti is the same tomato sauce that I use for the lasagna. We're gonna make up a cheese filling to kind of add as one of the layers. I have some tomato paste that really needs to be used up, so I'll probably chuck some into the sauce to kind of thicken it up. We have our grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef that's going to be going into our lasagna. Some people like to put Italian sausage, and you can do that too. I just don't have any, and ground beef is usually what we use. We're going to put an egg in the cheese mixture. We just have regular Kroger brand lasagna noodles. We've got Kroger brand ricotta cheese for the cheese mixture. I have some freeze-dried kale from last year's garden that I want to use up and add to our lasagna to add some more nutritional value to our meal. And I have a block of Parmesan. I'm going to shred up some of this to add to our cheese mixture. And then I've got some more Parmesan that also needs to be used up. So between this Parmesan and this Parmesan, it's gonna go into our cheese mixture as well. I got out some of my favorite dishes. They're Pyrex glass dishes, and I've got two that are the same size like this that I'm going to maybe put some lasagna into as a freezer meal. And then I've got this bigger one that's going to serve as our main meal for this week. So I'm going to set these over here so they're ready for us to use. We're going to go ahead and get the cheese shredded up so that way that's done, and we're going to get the cheese mixture all mixed up as well, so that way once I brown the meat and add the sauce, we can start assembling. With making lasagna, there are instructions that say to pre-cook the noodles, like to par cook them so they're not fully done. There are also lasagna noodles that are oven ready noodles. I've used those before too, and there's nothing wrong with them. I think they're great. But I have found that I don't necessarily need to cook my lasagna noodles before I use them in lasagna. Because of all of the moisture that is in the dish, the noodles do tend to cook in the cooking process once everything's made and put together and put in the oven. So just a tip, I don't typically cook my lasagna noodles anymore. I just stack them dry when I'm layering the lasagna. I chuck it into the oven and it comes out fully cooked every time. So we have our block of cheese. I need to cut it on open. I'll throw that away. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to get a cutting board and I'm just going to cut a piece of cheese off. You don't generally want to handle the full block of cheese. As soon as you start introducing other germs to the block of cheese, it's going to mold faster. So if I can just cut off the piece that I need and then wrap the rest of it back up, it's going to last much longer in the fridge if I'm not touching the entire block. And I'm going to cut up a pretty big chunk because then this way I can also have some pre-shredded mozzarella cheese in the fridge ready to go whenever we want. And then I'm just gonna close this back up, put it in a plastic bag, and we're gonna stick this back in the fridge. Okay, put the sheet back on. All right, so I grab a bowl. I have a box cheese grater, so I'm just gonna put the cheese grater in the bowl and I'm gonna get going on the mozzarella. Okay, so now our mozzarella is shredded. I'm gonna grab us a bowl. Okay, so we have a bowl that we can mix things in. I'm just gonna open up the ricotta cheese. I'm gonna put the whole thing in there. There we go. Just like that. We are gonna add a good handful of cheese, of mozzarella. I'm gonna use up the rest of that Parmesan. There wasn't much left. That smells really good. And sure, we'll add the rest of that too. All right. We're clearing out some bags. Okay, we're gonna add an egg. Okay, and I compost, so I'm just gonna rinse this out. I'm gonna stick it in my compost bucket. All right, we're gonna grab a spoon. We're gonna break all this up. We're gonna mix it all together. Some days I just use ricotta and mozzarella for the cheese layer, but today I felt going a little extra and adding a little more flavor. Okay. So now we're gonna give this a little bit of seasoning. I'm gonna add some garlic powder, some black pepper, some salt. It says vanilla bean, but I'm just reusing the container for my salt. And I'm gonna use a little bit of oregano and a little bit of basil. Okay, I don't particularly measure. Usually I'm able to taste it, but because I put a raw egg in here, we're probably not going to give it a taste test. Awesome. Now our cheese mixture is pre-made and ready to go. We are going to turn on our pan so we can get the meat going and browning it on up. And I'm just turning the meat onto about like a medium high heat. And then we're going to put all these away. We're going to throw all of this away too. If we try and clean as we go, it means less mess to clean up later. I'm just gonna put a lid on this and I'm gonna put this cheese in the oven, or I'm gonna put the cheese in the fridge until we need to top the lasagna. Okay, so this pan should be nice and warm now. We are going to open this package. And just like we did with the spaghetti, we're just gonna break apart the ground beef so there aren't any big clumps of meat. So that way we have a little bit of meat in every bite. And I should have just kept my seasonings out because I need them to season the meat. Just like with spaghetti as well, you want to make sure that you're seasoning your meat because it will definitely add to the flavor profile of the entire dish. And it will be a little obvious if you do not season the meat. So again, we're going to want oregano, basil, salt, pepper. We're going to do some garlic powder. A dash of thyme, and just a little bit of rosemary as well. So this lasagna, it's not going to go in the oven right away. It's only 210 here. So I'm going to get it pre-made and then I'm going to stick it in the fridge while I am then going to make the grilled chicken Alfredo. But then that way I don't have to worry if we get busy a little later on today. Dinner's already ready to go. I just need to chuck it into the oven. So I added quite a bit of garlic. Add some oregano. Some salt. Pepper. Some rosemary, thyme, and a little bit of basil. I'll link, or in the description box, I will put all of these measurements. I mostly just kind of go off of eyeballing it. Certain things I'll measure on, this isn't one of them, but I will make sure that I include an actual recipe for this down in the description box so you can follow it. Ooh. Those Italian seasonings just smell absolutely amazing as soon as you start to cook with them. They get so fragrant and it just makes the kitchen smell wonderful. Okay, now we're just going to let this brown up. And then here in a minute, we're going to add our sauce. We're going to add some tomato paste. And we're going to add our kale. So we like to put pepperoni in with our lasagna. It kind of gives a little bit of that Italian sausage type of feel to it. But our personal choice is to add pepperoni. You can totally make lasagna without pepperoni. You don't need to add it. That's just what we like to add to it. And we find that it's pretty delicious. So if you want to add pepperoni to your dish, I can highly recommend it. All right, so the meat is done. We are going to add the spaghetti sauce, the marinara, excuse me. Okay, we're gonna let this go. We'll hang this upside down for a minute. We're gonna add the rest of our kale. We're just gonna dump the whole thing in there. And once this is all cooked up, you won't even know that the kale is in there. It takes on the flavor of the pasta sauce and everything else that's in there, so you won't even know that the kale is there other than being able to visually see some green flecks. So we're gonna finish So now our meat sauce is done and we're ready to start assembling our lasagna. So I'm gonna bring this over here. This is my open package. And what we're gonna do, should probably get a spoon type. And I'm just going to put a little layer on the bottom for the noodles to rest on. This is just looking so thick. It'll be fine. It's gonna turn out just fine and we're not gonna worry about it. Okay, so we want one of these noodles. So we're gonna break it. We're gonna put one there. Break it. And then we'll break a noodle. Put a noodle there. Put the noodle there. Next we are going to put our cheese sauce. We're just gonna smear it. We're gonna be pretty generous with the cheese sauce, and if we don't end up using this all, we can freeze it. I'm sure it'll freeze up just fine. I've actually never freezed it before, but I can't imagine it wouldn't freeze up well. So we're just gonna give it a little spread. It's not gonna spread very, very well. And then we are going to start topping it with pepperoni. And you can put as much or as little pepperoni as you want. I kind of just do a little grid of pepperonis. Usually only about a noodle wide. Okay. And then we will top it with some meat sauce. And now we repeat the process with the noodles all over again. Okay. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna top this with some cheese and we're gonna stick it into the fridge. So this is one little lasagna for us. And then I think it looks like I'll probably just get one of these smaller ones. Okay, and we got a second little lasagna. I'm super excited to try this and pop this into the freezer. Okay, so let me wipe this down real quick and I'll show you how we are going to. We're gonna put foil on that one. Actually, these came with their own lids. I don't need to use foil. So we're just gonna put this into a bag, into the freezer, and then when we're ready to make lasagna next time, we can just pull it out and it'll be ready to go. Okay, these noodles are done. Okay, and what I'm going to do, if you don't know this trick, it's a game changer. You put your bag inside of a cup and you roll the lip out, you wrap it around the cup, it'll hold your bag open for you, and then you aren't making a mess trying to get your items, your food, into the bag. And if you need to like pipette to say you're doing deviled eggs, if you need that filling into the bag and you're cut the tip off, this same thing. And then beautiful. You don't have a mess up here when you're trying to seal it back up. Okay. We're going to squeeze out most of the air. We're going to get it kind of flat. And then we'll pop this into the freezer. And our 2 lasagnas are done. Okay, so my Pyrex dishes came with lids. So what I'm going to do for the big Pyrex dish, that's going to be dinner tonight, I'm just going to put a lid on it and put it into the fridge. Because of the size of this dish, I don't even need to put saran wrap. I can actually put it in a plastic freezer bag and it should be okay. So making lasagna is super easy. It's about just as easy as spaghetti. There's a little more assembly required, but it doesn't take a whole lot of time to actually put together. Honestly, what takes lasagna the longest is the fact that it cooks for such a long period of time. But if you pre-make it ahead of time, easy peasy. So I'm really looking forward to having that in the freezer. In the event we don't have anything planned for dinner, I can just pull lasagna out and call it good, and I don't have to do a lot of cooking. I just have to pop it into the oven. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful or beneficial, please pass this along to somebody else who you think may benefit from it. If you also liked it, I would greatly appreciate if you hit the like button and maybe consider subscribing. We're going to do a lot more cooking here in the future. We're also going to be covering some more live skills, such as folding laundry to include your sheets. That fitted sheet, man, it really throws people for a loop. I'll show you how I do it. Maybe it makes your life easier. Maybe it doesn't, I can't guarantee that. But then at least maybe you'll know how. And I'm also thinking about showing you guys how to check your tire pressure. There are a lot of young adults going into the world right now, and they're going to be on their own. You don't want to be stranded on the side of the road because you didn't know how to check your tire, because you don't know how to put air in it, or because you don't know how to change a tire. That is something I greatly think that you need to know and not have to rely on others. So if you liked this, stick around, but until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.